Hello there, it is Toby here from TIJ Music and welcome to a album review. Today we're going to look at a Kiefer Sutherland album. It's his second album, Reckless and Me. Bit of an accident really, how I come across this album. Now, a lot of the stuff I review on this channel is, I guess, for a broad term, is rock music really. More pop rock, hard rock, progressive rock, but generally it's rock music. And I've only reviewed a couple of country albums, something I'd like to do a little bit more. Now, I'd say as a majority, rock music is really what I'm into, and it's probably the easiest stuff to review. As generally speaking, again, this is more of a stereotype, but rock albums are probably more well-weighted, let's just say. A lot of the, for example, the 80s pop albums, I love the 80s, and I love some of the popular music that come out in the 80s. A lot of it, again, very much a stereotype, generalisation, is it was one or two tracks, singles, and the rest of it was a bit of riff-raff, and as an album review, I'm not really interested in doing that, but my point I'm coming on to is really, as a kid, I didn't listen to much rock music. The only rock music I tended to listen to at a very young age, sort of 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, I'm only 21 now, is Slade and Kiss. Those are the two groups I was into, really. But as a kid at that age, I spent a lot of time with grandparents, particularly at the weekends, and I grew up on Johnny Cash, Kenny Rogers, Charlie Pride, Marty Robbins, the Seekers as well. But a lot of country acts. I feel like I've missed somebody big out there, but I can't remember. No, it's gone. But the point I'm coming to is I love country music. I really like Johnny Cash. I really like Glenn Campbell. I've gone into Glenn Campbell recently, and Kenny Rogers. I think that might have been the one I was missing, actually. But I do love my country music, and Charlie Rich as well. I've done a Charlie Rich review on this channel as well. And really, the background behind buying this album is I was watching a series a couple of years back on Netflix, which Kiefer was in, called Designated Survivor. And a friend of mine said he's actually released an album, which isn't this one, but he's released an album, a music album, and I thought, okay, it's a bit strange as an actor. I didn't know that, Kiefer Sutherland could sing, and listened to a few tracks on that album. I thought, yeah, not too bad, and I didn't think too much more of it. Anyway, sometime last year, I think it was about August last year, I went to a charity shop, as I usually do, for those of you who know me, and I saw this bad boy for 50 pence. And I thought, well, I'm mad not to. This being his second album, Reckless and Me, in a nice little digipack there. It's got a booklet which I'll show off in a minute. And thought I was mad not to, and kind of straight away I thought, right, I'll give this a listen. And I thought, yeah, some good tracks, but it's not great. But I'll tell you something, it has really grown on me. Just sort of an 8-page booklet with some nice pictures. I'm not going to go through it all, but just some nice pictures, lyrics for all the tracks. Just show it upside down. There you go. That's the double spread. I think that's probably going to be the thumbnail for the video, probably. Black and white picture of that. But all the lyrics and nice digipack, some nice work put into it, and just a picture of the producer of the album here, Jude Cole, one of Kiefer Sutherland's good friends. The list of people I need to thank for this record is simply too long, but lucky for me, they know who they are. Having said that, I do want to thank Jude Cole for his long life friendship and immeasurable talents. The thousands of people that I have never met who have chosen to give us a chance by coming to our shows over the years, I am humbled and grateful. I hope you enjoy this record as much as we enjoyed making it. And it's certainly grown on me. A lot of albums, it's funny really, there aren't many albums that click with me first time. I have to give them a second or third try. And unfortunately, there are some albums that I never give that second or third try. And that's just the way it happens sometimes. But it has to be said, despite anyone's and mine particularly really, original perceptions, Kiefer can sing, and there's some great country tracks here with real emotion, passion and grit, and I do really enjoy this album. And I know it doesn't mean much these days, but it did get to number 9 on the UK album charts, which is pretty good, to be honest. And it also got to number 1 on the UK country charts, which is a chart that before I researched this yesterday, I had absolutely no idea it existed. But on this track, a lot of these tracks written by Kiefer in combination was the one I was going for. Seriously, I cut that about 30 seconds and just had a complete blackout in my mind. But he wrote a lot of these songs in combination and co-wrote these with Jude Cole, who was the producer of the album. So you've got Open Road, Something You Love, again this is 10 tracks, Faded Pair of Blue Jeans, Reckless and Me, the title track, Blame It On Your Heart, This Is How It's Done, Agave, Run to Him, Saskatchewan, and Song for a Daughter. And again, there you go, the track list. and all that on the back of the Digipack CD, and I've already shown you the booklet, and then just inside, just a two-page spread, Reckless and Me, and then the CD one side, and the booklet the other. So let's kick this off then. So the first track on this album is Open Road, and again, one that didn't really grate on me too much first time I listened to this, but it has to be said, after a couple of listens, it's certainly a solid acoustic opener. I went for a walk a couple of Sundays ago, actually, and I thought, yeah, I'll listen to this again. I enjoyed it while listening to it, and it was definitely good music for a Sunday walk, and this one certainly, it was the typical country road trip cliches, talking about driving on the open road and, you know, forging that path and all those sort of cliches, but catchy melody, good tempo, and just a solid way to start the album, so I'm going to give that one a 7 out of 10. Track number 2, Something You Love. Now this one's a bit more up-tempo and really does what it says on the tin. And in the choruses, you'll go far doing something you love. And some of the lyrics are great here, really. He said, I'm wasting my life just paying my bill, doing my time, but getting no chills. The living ain't living not without the thrill of doing something you love. Sing a song loud or hit a ball hard. Spend a night outside under the stars. Catch one falling and you'll go far. Doing something you love. Really love that. Really do. And it's really upbeat, and this was one of the singles off the album, and I can't say I'm too surprised because it is solid single material and really caught me from the first listen. What a single should really do, and I'm going to give that one an 8 out of 10. Track 3, I'm so tempted to go with the vinyl and say on the first side of the album, but given it's a CD, I can't bloody do that, even though it was released on vinyl. Just as a side note, I'd love to get the other 2 albums he's done. The first one was actually released on his own label, which I think he co-owns with Jude Cole, Ironworks, but that was only released in the US. You can only get it as an import here, and it's ridiculous money, so not going to get that yet. But track number 3, Faded Pair of Blue Jeans, and something a little bit different again, tempo and arrangement-wise, kind of like in between the middle, I guess, of the 2 tracks, a mid-tempo track. Great storytelling this, about a relationship that you can look at in 2 ways, maybe faded as the title suggests, or I guess, you know, well used and comfortable over the years, again, depending on your interpretation really, and a solid vocal here, solid arrangement, and really just solid and listenable, so again, another 7 out of 10, and that rating goes for the title track as well, Reckless and Me. And after kind of the roses and happiness of the first 3 track, you get quite gritty and bluesy here. Maybe it's a bit repetitive. I think I count 6 of these oh ho no or oh ho ho vocals, but what really shines is Kiefer's vocals here. The guy can definitely sing, and country suits him down to the ground really, and the guitars sound brilliant here as well. Track number 5, Blame It On Your Heart. And this again is a little bit of a change back to a bit of soul and toe-tapping rock here. It's really, really good. Another solid album track. I can't pick any bones of it really, apart from the fact that it's not an original. It was actually written by somebody else for a 1993 US #1 single, performed by Patti Loveless. You'd never know that, would you? But I actually wasn't too keen on this one first, but you know what? It's grown on me, like the album itself, and again, another solid 7 out of 10 really. So I'm going to do it. That ends the first half of the album. Again, the first side of vinyl, I would presume, if you had the vinyl. Track number 6, though, this is a bit of a letdown, I think, personally, and it is a 6 out of 10, and this is called This Is How It's Done. Sorry. But yeah, I'm not so keen on this one, really. It's a slight change in style with a kind of country, honky-tonk sort of thing, and straight from the interview that Kiefer did about this album, it's about the first time he saw, and again, apologies if I'm not looking at the camera, I'm referring to my notes, he saw 2 adult men beating the shit out of each other, and that happened 3 minutes after I walked in the door. It scared me a bit, and I'm still trying to figure out why I kept going back. There you go. It's not terrible by any means, but it's kind of average at best, not really adding anything, I don't think, the track, you know, it's just a bit bland, I guess, really. And it's the only time the album does that. It certainly doesn't degrade from there, and certainly improves. So track number 7, again, is a 7 out of 10. Agave, and again, another slight style change, which is really good for me. A lot of, as I've said, a lot of these country, you know, the 80s example was the one I used, but a lot of these albums, it's just a single or 2, and the rest is a bit boring and kind of samey. But again, this is almost like got a Mexican feel, the whole tequila infused melody, but it's got more of a Mexican feel, that has, and the album's experimental in a sense, and I think it works. I really do think it works, and again, a bit of boogie here even. Not something I'd listen to ordinarily, but it's good. It really works. It's a solid track. 7 out of 10. And after that, this album really goes one step further. And I think this is really where the album starts to come really into its own in the last 3 tracks. So firstly, track number 8 is Run to Him, which I think is one of the highlights of the album. It's a 9 out of 10. And I do love the kind of studio outtake style we get at the start of the track, which is kind of like the 3, 2, 1 and all that. Reminds me a little bit of going to that rock element of Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution by AC/DC. And I guess you could say Sweet Home Alabama, Lynyrd Skynyrd, that sort of outtake style at the start of the track. This one's a real great atmospheric rocker, which is no surprise why I like it, really. With the slower grooves in there, and it's really bluesy. You get the gritty vocals here, and I have to say I really like it, if you couldn't tell already. Plays to Kiefer Sutherland's strengths. The instrumentation, backing vocals, everything's just top-notch here. If I hadn't said before, that one is a 9 out of 10. Another 9 out of 10 for the next track, track number 9, Saskatchewan. And when I read this on the back of the cover, I thought, what the bloody hell's that? I think it's a place in Canada. And hopefully I've pronounced it right. That's how he sings it on the track, so unless he's purposely getting it wrong, I should be alright. Now, as you might have seen from some of my Neil Diamond, etc. reviews, I might be a bit of a sucker for a ballad. A slower ballad that might be a bit tad depressing, but this is excellent. Now, according to an interview, this one was written on a plane when Kiefer flew to see his mother, who just suffered a second stroke. He didn't know if she was alive or dead. When he arrived through the line about going back to put my mama in the ground. And it says on this page, for the record, she's now 85, which is great news. And the personal touch here and the songwriting is really great. And I think personally it's that good. I could see somebody like Springsteen pulling this off. The songwriting is that good. It's really good. Again, 9 out of 10. And to close the album is Song for a Daughter. And like some of the other tracks on this album, the subject is summed up pretty well in the title. Again, autobiographical here, the acoustics, the arrangement, it's great, it really is. This song, his daughter's older by this point, it's not necessarily just born, but older by this point, and Kiefer's reflecting on the past and the situation now, and I find that quite interesting as a real symmetry between the album as a whole, the cohesion between the album as a whole you've got there, because you kind of got a life that's been lived in a lot of these tracks, and it could be said that it's in the twilight, but there's still more to come. You've got tracks like Someone to Love. I'd like to see him cover it. But tracks like Something You Love, Faded Pair of Blue Jeans, there's a transition from the likes of Reckless and Me. And I guess this is how it's done, you know, looking back at younger days. So that's it for the 10 tracks of the album, and it comes out bang on at 7.5 out of 10, which I guess is 3/4 good. And again, it's solid. That's how I'd describe it. A really, really solid album. 3.5 out of 10, 3.5 out of 5, 7.5 out. Yeah, that'll work. 7.5 out of 10. And it's just a good, solid listen without being anything groundbreaking, but just a solid listen, an enjoyable listen. And I certainly enjoyed it and absolutely chuffed I picked it up, because I don't think without picking it up on CD I'd listen to it, and I have that a lot now with albums, and I'm planning to talk a bit more about the physical side of collecting and all that in the future, so let me know if you'd like to see more of that in the comments. Kiefer Sutherland brought out a new album a few weeks ago called Bloor Streets, which I haven't listened to yet. As I said, he's got 3 albums. The first one, Down in a Hole, which I've listened to about half of, and again, I don't think it's too bad. This one, which I really like, and then Bloor Street, which I have to admit I listened to a bit of it, didn't really catch on. Might have been my mood that day, so I'm going to have a listen to that again at some point. But he is playing locally later in the year, which I'm tempted to go and see. He's going on a tour in the UK, and I think, you know what, I don't know how long he's going to do this music lark for, and it might be the only chance I get to see him. But I think it's even offensive to say this as a kind of actor turned performer, music performer. You wouldn't know, better I put this without being blunt, if you didn't know, and I don't think there's many people who don't, but if you didn't know that Kiefer Sutherland was an award-winning actor, you know, the massive Jack Bauer in 24, and most recently with some of the films he's been in as well over the years. He's been in a lot of films over the years, really big actor. But if you didn't know he was an actor, and just as a country singer, you'd think he's great. I think that, again, like some people, they get a bit turned off for the fact, you know, he was in some film and he ain't going to be very good. Bit like, I'm trying to think now, who's the other one basically, he hasn't got the reputation of Bradley Walsh or Alexander Armstrong, who's try singing these standards, and you see them everywhere in charity shops. Although I did see this in a charity shop, but I thought that was a rather good find for a charity shop. Don't know who donated it. They're a plonker, so they should have kept it. But what do they say? One man's junk, another man's treasure, etc, etc. I've really enjoyed that, and I'd like to do more of these reviews in the future. Again, I've got some more of the hard rock stuff coming up a little bit later. I'm just looking at it now. I can see that. I'm not going to get up and get it, but I did buy myself a complete albums collection of Judas Priest a couple of weeks ago. I'm working my way through those albums, and most of the way through, and I'm planning to do an album ranking of them, a full album ranking after I've done that. So if that's something you'd like to see, that'd be great. But again, regular reviews coming here. If you've listened to this album and have an opinion, leave it down in the comments. If you haven't listened, it's available on all good streaming platforms. Equally, go and buy yourself the CD. It's not too expensive on eBay, actually. I think I saw it for £5 or £6, and it is well worth it. It's a really, really good listen. If you've enjoyed that, really appreciate it if you give it a like. Again, as you might see, I'm trying to grow this channel again, so I'm going to try and churn some videos out. And obviously the engagement, comments, all the rest of it just boosts the channel and allows more good people like you to see the content. But thank you for your company today. I have been Toby from TIJ Music, and until the next time, I will see you later. Goodbye for now.